The button has been mashed. Now we gotta wait on Instagram because we always gotta wait on Instagram.
Cause she's slow.
Hmm. Oh, oh, there she goes. I think we're live on both now. So, shall we get this little party started?
Mash the button.
Hi, I'm Rick.
I'm Dan.
I'm George.
I'm Jake.
And we are Queer Magnolias,
The podcast.
In each episode,
We're going to talk about everything from growing up queer in the South.
To the issues affecting our community today.
with a little bit of fabulous sprinkled in along the way,
Join us for an all-you-can-eat buffet of queer joy,
mixed in with the occasional bitch fest
But always served
with
the
the
spiciest
spiciest tea.
Hi, welcome back, George. We have
Thank-
missed you.
We did miss you, honey. Welcome back.
It's been so long that I actually have forgotten how to do this. So I was like, wait, I feel like I need an headset.
We'll stumble our way through it.
I know, like a virgin every time.
I'm sure you say that a lot. I'm sure you don't get that a lot.
I have used that line more than once, and it's always worked, Rick.
Has it? Has it though? Has it though?
Yes.
Okay.
Someone of your vintage may not be able to pull it off.
My vintage is fine, honey. Just like fine wine, honey.
And or red wine vinegar.
Well, I've known many people never to pass up table wine, honey, from
Right.
from 40
Just
clicks.
You just pass it around, girl. Just
pass it around, honey. Pass it around.
I smell the cheese. I don't know about the wine. I smell the cheese, honey. It's aged. It's aged.
Lord, is this what I missed? I'm gonna send y'all to the waiting room. Oh,
That's
we can't
right.
do that here.
George, we will talk amongst ourselves, honey. Come on.
I will say this: while I was gone, you two had very civilized conversations.
We did. I didn't let Dan go off the rails. I kept him on track.
Well,
That's
all bets
what
are
she
off tonight,
says. We'll
sweetie.
take that. Okay, that's what she says. Okay.
all bets are off tonight, sweetheart.
No, that's right. So I guess is it Happy Juneteenth? Should we be saying Happy Juneteenth?
Yes,
or
we
is it,
should.
or is
We
it-
absolutely should. No, we absolutely should. We have to say where we are in this place in history. So, absolutely, happy Juneteenth.
Well, I do understand the need to say Juneteenth, but I guess it is happy, right? Because it is sort of the emancipation of slaves. So I guess there's something in that. So
all right, so Dan is ready with his history, y'all.
I
Oh,
can't
Lord.
wait for
Oh,
this.
Lord,
I-
Dan has notes tonight. I love it.
I
Dan
did
has-
right for once is Dan's fucking life. So
Dan has the book report.
right, so
97 episodes, and when he finally writes something down,
yes. Wait.
I'm
Listen
just gobsmacked. I'm gobsmacked. I'm
Woo,
telling you.
wait, y'all.
We ain't
So,
heard it yet,
amendment-
Rick. We ain't heard it yet.
Are you- Well, there is that, George. All right, y'all listen now. So, Amendment 15 to the Constitution, the last of the Reconstructionist amendments, was ratified on February 3rd, which is next to George's birthday, 1870. George wasn't born in 1870.
1871, honey.
Right. All right. So it's important to hear this part. It grants the rights to vote to all male citizens, not female, regardless of their ethnicity or prior servitude. Are you fucking shitting me? Servitude? Really? Servitude? That's what it says in the 15th Amendment. Servitude. Ain't nobody fooled about servitude. So now Dan's coming out strong, hon. Y'all, Dan's coming out strong because the thing is, we have whitewashed history since way back when. There was no servitude. Nobody showed up with a little white skirt and said, "Can I serve you?" No, we had people by the neck. We had people in chains. We had people enslaved. So now Dan's awake. So, I mean, it's like, I simply cannot imagine that this is the language we use, but I looked it up. That's the language we use because we want to make sure we don't show ourselves as being that person. We were that person.
Well,
Not the
first,
three of us, but go ahead.
first of all, I want to say to you, Dan, welcome to being woke. Welcome to that.
Hi,
Yes.
good morning.
Second of all, I do want to say, if we're going to talk about Juneteenth, let's all say, first and foremost, we are three white folk who are
Yes.
all Southern.
Yes.
So we may have things to say, but we are certainly not the be-all, end-all, and or perhaps the appropriate person to say it. But here we
Yes.
are with it. But we always have an opinion because we're homosexuals.
Well, yes.
Exactly.
Yes.
But you're exactly right, George. That's exactly what I wanted to say. So thank you for saying it. I wanted to sort of make it clear. I wanted to bring it up because I think it's important to acknowledge it. But it's also important to acknowledge who we are in all of this. And, you know, as you said, we have a point of view. We have an opinion. But we are, you know, we also are who we are. So
Yes.
it can't, we have to preface it with that. That said, this episode, go ahead. I'll let you have that in a second. Go ahead, Dan. And then I'm going to,
So, and it's important to say that we understand where we are, but we understand who we stand with. We stand with our
Yes.
allies, and we stand with the people that have been wronged because we understand that wronged in the past and probably even today. But we stand and say, we're with you because we three white boys don't stand with the other people. We stand with y'all.
And I will say
Does
this.
that sound right? I didn't mean that to sound wrong if it sounded wrong. If it
No.
did.
no, you said it. No, you said it right. We are allies. We are
allies.
allies all day.
And you know what? I feel like Black folk in so many stances have stood with us as queer
Yes.
folk.
Yep.
And we are here. We, the three of us, are certainly here for any of the struggles, any of the anything that's coming down the line. Here we are. We are supportive, and we're here. We are here.
Because
And
we are so all in this together. Because whether you're queer or a person of color, we have all been marginalized and
Yes.
attacked.
Yes.
And if we don't stand together, we lose together. We must stand together.
And while we may not, I'll just add on to that. While we may not fully be able to understand a lot of what Black people in this country have gone through to this day, I do think that there is an ability for us, especially as queer people, to in some ways relate to that feeling, not so much that experience, but that feeling of being marginalized.
Being other.
Yes, being othered and
Other.
marginalized and all of
That's
that.
nice. Yes.
Yeah.
Other than marginalized. Absolutely.
But that said, the episode itself is really not about Juneteenth, but a much bigger concept that I wanted to talk about, which is the DEI initiatives. And for those of you that don't know what DEI is, it's diversity, equity, and inclusion. And
That was
when
me.
and when we were first talking about what this episode might be about tonight, and realizing and recognizing that it's Juneteenth, and I wanted to sort of talk about going back to 2020 and the George Floyd incident and everything that came out of that, and all these companies' proclamations of diversity and equity and inclusion, and building these committees in their companies, and you know, everything that they were doing to make sure that they're being mindful moving forward of DEI. And their DEI efforts, and looking at it now, what are we, 4 years, literally 4 years.
Yes.
It was just
Yes.
very recently the George Floyd anniversary. 4 years later, look at how many companies have scaled back and rolled back their DEI policies. It is, I don't want to, I didn't want to be didn't want to be, the Debbie Downer in the room when all this was going on. But I was like, this is all great now in 2020 because it's the topic of conversation. But what's going to happen in 3 to 5 years? And I was like, I guarantee these companies are going to start rolling it back, and that's exactly what we're seeing.
Of course.
So it was popular and fresh at the time, and now it's just not. So
I mean, it's very easy to say, oh well, the pandemic caused so many different, changed everyone's financially, changed companies, changed infrastructures, changed supply chain, everything, and well, we have to make cuts. And what's the first thing to get cut? Well, it was the last thing to get hired, honey.
Yes, exactly.
That's true. And I think we talked about this last week. So I've been doing some shopping, surprisingly to anyone who's surprised that Dan was out shopping. But LGBTQ and Pride Month has been nearly erased from every store. It's like last year it was shoved down everyone's throat, and I loved it being shoved down Rick's throat. You know what I'm saying? But
so did she.
Well, I mean, I have rarely complained. I have rarely complained when something gets shoved somewhere, but it is what it is.
She has no gag reflex.
I have no problem taking one for the team.
Not since the age of 14. She hasn't had a gag reflex.
But now it's like we don't exist, And so I do agree with Rick. It's like all of a sudden these people who said, "Oh, we could never let this happen again," where are they now? Because they've all disappeared.
And first of all, I'm going to say hello to Roberto. I see you there. Hi. He's chiming in on the chat saying hello, Magnolias. So, go ahead, George. I spoke over you. Go, George. Sorry.
So, although I was vacant for the last 2 episodes, I certainly listened to them. So, I have notes about things you all did.
Oh, yes, she does, honey. She has texted me almost every evening, like, oh, and this, and I'm like, oh, Jesus Christ.
No.
Okay, bring it to a notepad, put it in a notepad and bring it to the next show, girl.
I just want to say, Rick, I don't know why you stumbled over this so hard, but it's rainbow washing.
Well, you're right. You're right, but it started out as pink washing, and then it became rainbow washing. So that's why I was stumbling over it, because it started out as pink washing.
It's rainbow washing.
And there was actually there was an episode that they just said that in that I just saw the other day. I'm gonna find it. I'm gonna send it to you now that you decided to call me out on it.
He's go right.
I said what I said.
So, all right, George, tell us how many more things Rick said wrong. Come on, watch your mouth out.
Oh, I've already heard them all. It's all right, darling. You can just do it. I've already heard them all, honey.
Honestly, that was
trust me. I've gotten all the critiques.
I was just like, Rick, pink washing, girl. How far back are you going? Are we the Lavender Menace again? How far back are you going? But yes.
It's funny. In my notes, I did have rainbow washing and pink washing, but pink washing was the most prominent term that I saw a lot of people referring in articles that I was reading. Because, believe it or not, I actually do a little bit of research before I show up for these episodes because I want to know what the hell I'm talking about.
Girl, they do. I don't.
And that said, I've got some stats for y'all.
I wing it.
I know you do, darling. We all know you do.
I think everyone knows I do. And it's okay because I'm here. I show up and I'm winging.
Also, I've got some information and stats for you guys that I actually did on DEI efforts. And I wanted to know, I researched corporations, companies that we regularly frequent, and then because it matters to sort of the industry that I work in, I wanted to know what the studios were doing too.
Yes.
So I have.
What is DEI? These acronyms have to be told.
Because Dan doesn't work for a company. So Dan
I don't work for a company. I'm just me. I don't know what DEI is. What is that?
It's what I said at the top of the episode.
Tell it again.
It's diversity, equity, and inclusion.
Okay. That's DEI, people. Y'all listening?
Okay, great. All right. So the first one that comes up is actually surprising, especially given what in the recent news with Target and what Target has, how Target has sort of caved to all of these right wingers that went a little batshit crazy last year during Pride Month. Target itself, is despite this initial commitments to DEI, it is Walmart. Sorry, Walmart has faced criticism for a very slow response and its diversity hiring goals. Now, again, this is not LGBTQ specific. This is diversity, equity, and inclusion across the board. So this is for all people of color and marginalized communities.
And I just want to say again, because I feel like I got a little lost. We're talking about Walmart.
Walmart, yes,
not Target.
Not Target. Walmart. What I was saying was that I was surprised because Target has been in the news recently, but Walmart is actually one that's most heavily criticized for its DEI efforts and its slow pace. Wells Fargo, which does not surprise me. I don't know anybody that banks at Wells Fargo, and if I do, you should not. But Wells Fargo has always been troubled in terms of its customer service and its business practices and all of this. But it actually in 2023, it quietly ended its diversity hiring mandate. So it didn't even make it 4 years. It barely made it 3 before they just quietly made it disappear.
Okay,
yes,
so I just want to say I have not seen a single Pride parade that Wells Fargo hasn't had their stagecoach in. So I don't know what that rainbow washing is about, because clearly they are not practicing what they preach.
Interesting. Starbucks is another one in 2023. Starbucks, and this one cuts me at my core because I love me some Starbucks. But
every
Starbucks
morning
announced
at 7:15.
Well, 6:30, depending on the day.
Yeah, 6:30. Y'all don't believe that? No, y'all don't believe that.
So in 2023, they actually did a very significant reduction in its DEI team, downsizing high-profile commitments, as well as employees and staffing that were dedicated solely to work on DEI efforts. Facebook, I don't think anybody should be surprised by that. Yes, we're all on George. I see you. 1 second. We're all on Facebook. We all I have my love-hate with Facebook. I feel like I have to maintain a Facebook account, even though I would love to get rid of it. So Facebook is another one. But go ahead, George. You were going to say something.
Let's talk about Starbucks for a minute, though, because I feel like if there were ever perhaps a company that already practiced DEI, it was Starbucks. Starbucks has always had such diverse hires. They've always been so pro LGBTQ, as having been an ex-employee of Starbucks.
But they're also one of the early, correct me if I'm wrong, but they're one of the early corporations out there that actually gave same-sex benefits, right?
Yes.
Maybe not the first. I think Amex was the first. We did an episode on this, but they were definitely one of the early ones.
They were in there.
Surprised me when I saw this because but again, it goes back to understanding business to a degree. I don't have a business degree, but but understanding business, I can see where, like, when this happened, I'm like, okay, all you guys are making all these promises that are going to go away in the next 3 to 5 years. Just don't make the promise. Just do it quietly. Why are you making this big fuss about it? If you want to do this, do it quietly. Go ahead, Dan. I know why, but
what happens though? Because I think so many companies like Starbucks, Home Depot, I think they already have policies that are ingrained into their hiring policies. I mean, Home Depot 20 years ago was offering same-sex benefits to couples who were married in states that you could be married or had a civil union 20 years ago. And we're talking about Home Depot. So the thing is, we have to look and say, okay, some of these companies may be scaling back, but are they scaling back because they already have policies in effect? Right. Or are they scaling back because they don't like us?
Right.
Because I think there's a big difference in that. And then what happens is there are people in the media who would like to, say,
So now you're hitting on what I wanted to say. I don't think it has anything to do with the first part with what you were talking about. I think you're right. They already had these policies in place. They were just trying to move forward in a way that was, in my opinion, a little reactionary. In my opinion, it was a little reactionary to what was happening with George Floyd and the major uprising that happened as a result of that. I don't know any friend, even us, I don't know any of us that were not affected by that.
No, and, totally agree, Rick. Totally agree.
I think it was a reaction to that. And then I think they were surprised at the counter reaction that they got from the right and the extreme right and the MAGAs and and his supporters and all of those people. And they have been going after them, just not okay. In a second, Danny, they've been going after them, but in a court of law and trying to find ways to challenge them and fight them. And I feel like a lot of these corporations are like, it's just not worth it. That's why, you know how companies always say, I'm just going to settle out of court. For them, it's like, I'm just going to get rid of this. It's not worth the fight. And to me, that's where I get pissed off, because I'm like, don't step into the ring if you're not willing to go all the way.
Totally agree with that. I do think that some of the things that we're seeing is companies are saying, okay, is this worth a fight or not? So I think the thing with Bud Light last year, I hated the fact that Dylan was so demonized. Vilified and demonized. But the thing is, Bud Light stepped into the ring and said, okay, this is a person that we're going to be a brand ambassador. There are hundreds of brand ambassadors with Bud Light. So here's what I can tell you from a corporate standpoint. If anybody out there wants something that's very affordable, Bud Light is really, really affordable right now. But I can tell you, business is exactly business. It's cyclical. Bud Light may be on the bottom right now, but it will be back on the top. Buy Bud Light now. It's just what it is.
So go ahead, George, and then I want to talk about the studios.
Okay, yes. So I want to talk about Target. I want to say, for me personally, it is more important for me, only speaking for me, that a company says, I see my employees and I'm going to give you same-sex benefits. I'm going to give you health benefits. I'm going to give you life insurance. I'm going to do everything I can to protect you. I'm going to hire you. I'm going to let you use your pronouns. I'm going to honor you. I'm going to let you be you in the workplace. It is more important to me that they do that than they put a rainbow striped t-shirt in at the front of their store.
Yes, and yes. 100%.
I agree with that. But again, I go back to what I said. I totally agree with that. And if that's as far as your investment into that is going to be, fine. Be upfront about that and leave it at that. But don't step in the ring. Don't step out there into that public light if you're not willing to go the distance. And that's where I get frustrated. It's like these people like Target that they face a little bit of resistance, and you knew it was coming. Because come on, if this country has not been polarized in the past 10 years, where have you been? It is polarized. And it's just like, come on, show up. I mean, yes, show up for your employees, but also don't step out into that light if you're not going to go all the way. That's what I'm saying.
But is a business a political statement, or are they a business to make money? Like, I feel like we could talk about the studios. We could talk about statements they've made and things they've thrown their hat into and then reeled it back because it didn't play out. A business is a business.
I agree. It is a business, and it's in a business to make money, and I understand that. But again, don't step into the ring and say, okay, we're here to support you as long as nobody else contradicts us. That's how I felt with Target. The moment they felt a little bit of heat, they were like, oh, I support you, but I'm going to do it over here in the dark. Why did you even step out here then? I don't need you.
Because it was fashionable. And that's what they do.
Yes, and God help you. You probably going to have to edit this out. But Rick, your parents
don't curse. Don't
No,
curse.
but your parent company did the same thing.
Oh,
I mean, if we're
Okay,
going to
then
go
I'm
all
gonna
the way
stop.
out there, you can edit this
Explain.
out.
No,
Seriously.
Just I'm gonna
You
have you
can't-
explain it because I'm not gonna go to bat for somebody if they did the same thing.
No,
But tell me.
but NBC Universal did the exact same thing where they stepped out there and then they reeled it back.
With what?
Exactly. They did something last year before last, that they did the exact same thing. And they're like,
Like what?
oh, yeah, we're here. And then we're going to come back. So don't ask me what. I don't know what it was, but you know what it was because you work for them.
I don't know what it was. I can tell you Will and Grace was the very first primetime show that went on the air that was part of NBC Universal. And Will and Grace is was the very first show to actually show an on-air kiss between two men. When
I think
even though it wasn't
I think that was
even though-
NBC, but I think that was in the daytime, honey, not the nighttime.
No, darling, it was Will and Grace, and they showed a kiss between Will and Jack, even though it wasn't romantic. They kissed each other on primetime TV. So
I
would love to know. I would like you don't have to do it right.
I'm gonna have to look that up. Sorry,
Fine.
this is gonna be a after conversation.
yes,
That
yes.
is
This is
perfectly
a back,
fine. But
a back porch conversation.
Yes.
that is perfectly fine. But I want to know. I want to know what you're talking about. So,
It may
but
take
that
me
is a perfect segue
tomorrow,
because
honey, tomorrow.
that is a perfect segue because I actually did want to talk about what's the studios also stepped into that ring.
Yes.
And we're like, oh, we're going to do this and we're going to do that. And it's exactly what you said, George. It's like, do it for your employees, and as what I was saying, it's like, do it, but don't be all like self-congratulatory about it.
Sure.
And
sure.
I have been, I love my publicity team at the studio that I work with, because one of the things we always talk about is like one of the things that our head of television communications always says anytime we start talking about should we do this or do that or do put this out or do this reel or do that, or like, he's like, well, is it self-congratulatory? Because we're not doing that. We're not going to pat ourselves on the back for doing something because we just do it. That's the reason why we do it. And I love him for always saying that. He's always like, he just grounds every conversation. And Seth, this is a shout out for you. He's like, before we go any further, we have to think about this. Is it self-congratulatory? Because we're not patting ourselves on the back for something that we should be doing already. And I love that. That said, I'm going down a rabbit hole and I'm not going to do that right now.
Come on.
Warner Brothers Discovery.
Come on, Warner Brothers. Come on.
Warner Brothers has gone through, this is the one that came to mind for me when I started thinking about my industry. They have gone through a lot of significant changes in just the past year or two, especially since they merged with Discovery. We won't call him out, will we? Anyway, so they have their efforts to maintain and enhance DEI initiatives have slowed quite a bit. They've actually kind of slowed down just a little bit. And then following them is Disney. Actually, Disney started scaling back their DEI efforts. And that surprises me that it showed up on this list, because Disney has always been, at least, as someone that's been in the industry for a minute, has always been sort of like, they've always taken care of their same-sex couples. And, they're one of the early studios that recognized and acknowledged that same-sex relationships should have insurance, and they should have, all the benefits and the perks that come with it. Go ahead, George. Thank you. Please take over.
But they will not give Elsa a girlfriend.
Yeah. Maybe write-in campaign. Do we do write-in campaigns anymore? I guess not. Probably.
No, darling. That's why we have Twitter and Instagram now.
Dan, that went out with prohibition, sweetheart.
Okay. Well, prohibition did not last.
Exactly.
I outlived prohibition, honey.
That's right.
I am getting ready for another one. Is it is it time for Aunt Lucy to get a drink yet or not yet?
Well, I mean, do you need to go get a drink, sweetheart? Because you could.
Mother needs a drink, hon.
All right. I do have one other that really surprised me as well. But go ahead, Dan. Do your thing, and then
All right, I'll be right
I
back.
will talk about it with George.
We will
All
talk
right,
about you while you're gone.
Yes, please. I'll be right back. Maybe.
Lord, honey, y'all know how she is.
You do. I mean, but Disney,
You
like,
you can take the girl out of the trailer part, but you can't take the trailer part out of the girl. honey.
No, ma'am, hon. No, ma'am. No, ma'am.
so wait, let's talk about Disney for a minute. Like Disney, like, I guess I don't know a lot about the studio system at Disney. I mean, I certainly know a lot about the history and Walt Disney himself. And I don't know how much this company still leans into his traditional values. But
Well, remember that I think Disney made this list because Iger left Disney, and I can't remember for the life of me because I need to. I cannot remember the guy that took over. And there were a lot of changes. A lot of stuff happened under this guy's leadership before Iger came back. And I think it probably made this list as for that reason. And again, I also think Dan's not wrong. And
oh my God!
Did you hear that, Dan?
Oh my God! Did anyone else hear that? Oh fuck me, Jesus!
Don't worry, I'll edit it out. Don't worry, I'll edit it out.
Never happened.
That's what I assume. Go ahead, Rick. Go ahead. Tell it again.
I don't think Dan is wrong when he says that it became an add-on to what they were already doing, and they realized this add-on is not really cost effective, and so they scaled it back. And so as a result of that, it becomes look what you're doing. You're scaling back your DEI efforts, right.
Yeah. Which I feel like the same for Starbucks. I feel like the same for Target, like I've already said. Like there are companies that were doing the work, and then because it became quote unquote fashionable to have a DEI officer and to have a department, let's make these hires. And then, like you said, it didn't last.
Right. And this let's do this add-on, and this add-on has now been taken away. Like if you think about in the world of business and subscriptions and things like that. So that's, in a sense, that makes sense. But this one surprised me. This company, and I know this just from having worked with them for as long as I have as a business partner, and knowing how they are internally, I was really surprised by this. But Netflix was actually a company that was our studio that was considered to dial back its DEI efforts, and that became mostly because in 2022, not even 2 years after all of this, they laid off an entire department that was largely staffed by women of color. And so that actually put them on this list as a result of that. Now, whatever their Netflix also, if you know anything about Netflix and how it works on the inside, they also are the epitome of at-will employment, which means that if the three of us are working in a department and I show up and I say, Danny he's not doing what I need him to do, I need him to go, Danny's gone. They don't do a whole, okay, well, let's talk about this and investigate and da-da-da. If it becomes everybody says this is an issue, they cut cord. They just don't, they'll pay you whatever to make you go away.
Look, Netflix canceled Sandman after one season, so they are clearly homophobic. So
no, they didn't. Darling,
it's
coming back. Season 2 is coming.
Is that true? Because I've heard that. I have heard that for 2 years now.
I just saw a thing for it the other day. I'll send it to you. I promise you it's coming. I promise you it's coming. It's long overdue, but yes. But that's how that. If you Google the Netflix HR deck, I forget what it's called, but the Netflix HR deck, and read that thing, it is crazy because they don't suffer fools. And I love that, but I hate that as well, because if somebody gets mad at me and says Rick's got to go, I don't get a chance to argue my case, right?
Sure.
It's not like I get dragged into HR and I have to go through all these meetings and stuff. Like, nope, you're out.
Yeah. Well,
bye Rick.
You know who else didn't suffer fools back in the early 90s? Nickelodeon. And look where that got them.
Well, and Netflix is suffering too. I mean, the whole business is suffering right now, but that's a whole other episode we could get into. Anyway,
No, we can't. We're running out of episodes.
oh, that's right. Did you guys? You guys remember? We're done. We're wrapping up in a couple episodes.
Yes,
this was your night to say all of that. We're good.
That's right. This is it. We're running. What are we on?
This is 97. So we've got 2 more to go.
99.
That's right. We're going now on 99, baby.
So
that's it. That's the end of my rant. I will say this. For the company that I work for, DreamWorks, I will say that the DEI officer that we hired back in 2020 is still there and still in every important meeting that she needs to be in, and has a voice in every situation, including what movies get greenlit and all of that. So I will say that I have been with this company for way too long, but
how many years, hon? So we can all
I'm not going to say it out loud.
I didn't think so.
She's a junior executive, a junior.
But it goes back to what you said. It goes back to what you said, though, George, about does the company first take care of its employees, and this company has from day one. So I'll never forget the very first day I showed up to work and went to lunch. And, if you know anything about our studio, you get lunch in the commissary and you have a tray and you go outside and there's like 500 tables that you can sit at. And I went out and it happened to be a very particularly busy lunch and there were no tables. And I remember this group of people said, "Hey, do you want to sit with us?" And I was like, "Sure." And I sat down with them. And then the first thing they asked me is like, after we did the introductions and stuff, I was like, "Oh, what did you," everybody was talking about what they did this weekend. And like, "What did you do this weekend?" And I was like, "Oh, I flew to San Antonio to spend the weekend with my boyfriend." And without missing a beat, everyone was like, "What does he do? Why is he in San Antonio?" Not a single thing about boyfriend. It just was like, "Tell us more." And I have never forgotten that. It was my first day. And I'm to this day with the people that are still in this company, we are like this today. That
was really big for 1972.
Yep.
That was a huge thing to happen.
See?
Totally agree.
And on that note, George is leaving. Thanks for showing up, George.
Richard Nixon threw up in his coffee that morning. I mean, it was bad. It was terrible.
And then the bomb dropped in Japan, and then the rest of it is like, yeah.
Exactly.
I mean, you and President Lincoln were enjoying that show before he got
Mary
shot.
Todd, honey. Me and Mary Todd, baby.
That's right.
Mary Todd.
That's right.
So anyway, that's it. That's all I have to say.
Same. It's been fun to be back.
Is this you don't have anything else to say?
I do.
I mean, I have a lot more.
I have something else to say.
Y'all need to write this shit down. All right.
My ice cubes are dry, as Aunt Lucy would say.
I got some, but I could get
Bye,
some.
Steven. We love you. We're jumping off too. Bye.
Bye, y'all. Love you.
All right. So what were you going to say, George, before we go?
Just that my ice cubes are dry. I said it.
Oh, I didn't hear that. Sorry. Can you do it again? I'm going to set you up.
Yeah. Set me up.
What were we going to say, George?
She's funny.
That way.
All right. I love you guys. We'll see you next week. Number 98. Next week, it's anything goes, right?
Like it isn't always.
Well,
right, George. Thank you.
True. All right. Bye, y'all.